having me here today. I'm fired up to be on a big stage. You know, it was kind of crazy thinking back when I was in all of your shoes in college. One of my biggest fears was public speaking. And here I am on stage doing public speaking. So one thing that my teacher told me early on, when I took public speaking, 8 a.m. first semester of college, because it just scared me a lot. So I'm like, I'm going to go straight at this thing, and we're going to conquer it. So my speech teacher, I want to say probably day 3, day 4, said something that stuck with me. And she basically said, she goes, Matt, you know, I realize a lot of people get nervous about public speaking, but you need to remember, typically when you're public speaking, it's going to be on a topic that you're very familiar with. And I don't know what it was, but all of a sudden I got it. I'm like, that makes sense. So over time, it does get easier, I'll tell you that. So my goal today is to help you all start to figure out some smart financial decisions you can be making in the next few years as you launch into your careers. So before I do that, I'm going to take a quick survey. How many of you are going to be graduating within the next year? Okay, next 2 years? Within the next 2 years? Okay, good. So these are going to be some topics that I'm going to cover that are going to come up quite a bit when you're sitting down with your employer and trying to figure out, we have all these benefits, right? Everybody familiar with benefits through work, health insurance, all of those things? I'm going to cover those the best I can without going too deep and confusing all of you, okay? So I'd highly suggest, take notes like crazy. I'm going to draw some pictures, make it interactive. If you have questions, raise your hand. That'll work out well. So the first number I want you to write down, because this has really helped me throughout my career in growing and learning and getting better, is the numbers 20, 50, and 80. So numbers 20, 50, and 80. You will remember 20% of what you hear. 20% of what you hear, you'll remember. You will remember 50% of what you hear and see. All right? You will remember 80% of what you hear, see, and do. So my suggestion is take notes like crazy, draw the pictures I'm going to draw, because that puts you in the 80% category, and you're probably going to absorb a lot of this. If you just hear it, you'll probably remember some of it, but not as much as you could. Make sense? All right, so I've been a financial advisor, been with Northwestern Mutual for 15 years. I've figured out I've had between 8 and 9,000 financial planning meetings. Between 8 and 9,000. I'm 35 years old. I started when I was 20. So I've had a lot of conversations with people around money. And I've come to some conclusions after listening and really interviewing people every single day about their finances. And there's some common trends that I found. Here's the number one common trend that I found. So I hope you all write this down. Money is neither good nor bad. Okay? It's not good, it's not bad. It's what you do with it that determines whether it's good or bad. All right? The second piece is you will either manage your money or it'll manage you. Well, what do you mean, Matt? Well, you'll either manage it, and I'm going to give you some ideas and techniques on how you can manage your money as you start into your careers, or you can let it manage you. And this, I was in college once too, where I didn't have a whole lot of money left, right? So what ended up happening every time we went to the grocery store, every time a bill popped up, what would we immediately think? Any answers? Do I have enough? Right? Do I have enough money to pay for that? Now too. That is the example of it managing you. Okay? Once you get disciplined with your money and your incomes, if you set up some of these different ideas that I'm going to throw your way, it will help you start to manage what you're doing. All right? So I'm going to keep looking at my watch because I want to save some time for questions because I know there's a lot of questions around all of these topics. So here we go. Remember the 80%, what you hear, see, and do? So I'm going to draw a picture so you can see it, but first I'm going to describe it. Okay? Have you ever thought, or not ever thought, think about the house of your dreams right now. Okay? A lot of you are smiling like, yeah, I can see it. Okay? Think about the roof. You know, think about, does it have stone on the front? Does it have brick? What kind of siding? What color? What's that front door look like? Okay, the yard. You know, is it a big, huge yard? Is it a smaller yard? Do you not like to mow lawn and not even want a yard? Okay? What does the garage look like? When you walk in the front door, what do things look like? Okay? Now what I want you to think about is how many of you, in your mind, when I ask the question, what does your dream house look like? How many of you thought of the foundation of the house? No one? The foundation is important, right? But it's not the fun part, right? The front door is the cool part. The stone, all the inside, you know, the man cave, all that stuff. That's what's awesome. Foundation, kind of forgotten. So you're thinking right now, where is this Matt Schulte guy going with a dream house, and what does it have to do with financial planning? What it has to do with financial planning is when you think of planning your finances, you have to start with the foundation first. All right? It's boring. I get that. But it's very, very critical. Let's say I am your realtor and I'm selling you a house. It's your ultimate dream house. And you're just flat out fired up about this dream house. Okay, and you went through it for the last like hour, hour and a half. You brought your parents, they're checking the place out. You're just, yeah, this is it. I say, hey, I just have to tell you one more thing. I feel kind of bad about this, but only 40% of your foundation is in place in this house. Like 60% of it's missing. It's not there. What do you think would happen at that point about your feelings towards this house? No deal, right? I don't want anything to do with it. Here's what's wild. In the 8,000 to 9,000 meetings I've had with people, I would say 70% of the time, people are walking around with 60% of their financial foundation missing. So it's pretty scary, really scary. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try to simplify when you're meeting with your employer, when you're trying to figure out your benefits, or if you own your own business, how should you build your own financial plan? All right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this house. Okay? Now, I'm not an artist. I don't claim to be an artist, so bear with me. Okay, so here's your foundation. Okay, you're starting to build a house, your financial house. So you're meeting with your employer, and you're trying to figure out all your benefits. Step number one, when you get your job or your career kick-started, what I immediately would do is set up a separate savings account for an emergency fund. So I'm just going to, emergency fund. Money will either manage us or we will manage it. So, what would you do? I would have the separate savings account called an emergency fund. I would have it automatically withdraw every 2 weeks that you contribute to it. Okay? Because then you're managing it. It's not managing you. All right? That's step one. How much money should you have in there? 6 to 8 months of living expenses at a minimum. All right? 6 to 8 months of your living expenses. Well, what if I have a big chunk sitting in my checking or savings account already? Do I need to start this? Yes. Because you'll always have emergencies that pop up. Okay? I'd love to tell you that life's perfect. As soon as you graduate college, good stuff will pop up. Okay? So, emergency fund, very, very important. Step number two. It's called income protection. Okay, so let's say your income is $50,000 a year. Over 30 years, that's $1.5 million bucks. If you had something worth $1.5 million, would you want to make sure to protect it in case it all of a sudden stopped, like giving you that income. Here, even better. Let's say, remember this dream house that you have? What also came with this dream house was like a little machine that they put in your garage that like every 2 weeks you'd go up to it and pull it, and out would pop money. I mean, it's your dream house, right? So you can do this. So you pull the lever, out pops this money. And it basically says you got $1.5 million to go. You just can only take out so much until you're age 65. If you could insure that, to make sure that it continually pays you money, would you do it? Yeah, most of us would, right? So what is this? When you talk to your new employer, it's called your disability insurance. Remember, the foundation's boring, right? This is insurance stuff. I know it's exciting. I can just see it's just beaming off of your faces like, wow, this is over the top. So disability insurance, there's two pieces to it. This is really, really important. All of you hear this. This disability insurance, 1 out of 3 of us will use this before age 65. All right? Here's the reality of life. I'm reading a book right now, and it talks about how, no one makes it out of life alive, but nobody really believes it until it gets really close. And what I'm also gathering from that is no one really believes they're going to get hurt. It's always going to happen to somebody else. But the reality is 1 out of 3 will experience it. So you need to make sure you're signed up for your short-term disability insurance. Typically, it might cost you $2 to $5 a month through your employer. Okay? Short-term disability insurance. Here's what's going to happen when you start your new job. They're going to hand you a stack of papers probably this thick. You're already going to be overwhelmed because you're starting a new career and you're like, I don't know what all to do. This is just hopefully your quick check the box, check the box, check the box. So short-term disability insurance. The second one is long-term disability insurance. Make sure you check that box. That typically is provided by your employer. All right? Now, you may need to add a little bit of short or long-term disability insurance on top of what you have through work, because they will only cover up to about 50 to 60% of your income. All right? Which means if you get sick or injured, you just took a 40% pay cut, and guess what? Your bills are going to keep coming in. So remember that dream house that you have? You want to make sure and keep that. We just need to protect your income. So sometimes you need to put a little extra long-term disability on top of it. Make sense? All right, the next one is just some basic life insurance. If you bought that house and you owe $200,000 or $250,000, say you're married, you have some kids, all of a sudden if something happens to you, your income is gone and your family is left without your income. So what life insurance will do is it'll pay out $100,000 when you pass away to your family to help them. All right? It could dump out $200,000 depending upon the size of policy you have. Most of the time, your employer will provide some life insurance for you. Usually it's $10,000 to $25,000. The average funeral costs like $15 grand. Okay? A lot of money. So you want to make sure you have some basic life insurance. Ideally, you get that outside of your work, because most people will change jobs several times throughout their career. Then you always have this in your back pocket, and this in your back pocket. Your supplemental will be in your back pocket. This will just change when you change jobs. All right. So remember that dream house and that foundation? How none of you raised your hand saying you envisioned the foundation of your dream house? Okay, so this is the foundation of your financial plan. So if you were bored, you're normal. Okay? Because that sometimes can be boring. Before I dive into the fun part of the house, what questions do you all have about this, if any?
So, the personal income protection.
Yep.
So, is that through an insurance company? Or?
Yep, you can get these through insurance companies. Yep. First step one is get as much as you can through your work. And then after after that, seek out, a financial advisor, an insurance company, and have them help you with it. Yep, to supplement it on top. Same with life insurance. Know that there's a difference in insurance companies too. Just real quick on that topic, there's financial ratings. You have a question? Okay. Go ahead.
After we talk so much about insurance, then it becomes like we have to pay so much of premiums.
Yep.
And what do you suggest? If I have a 50K income per year,
Yep.
how much do you suggest for premiums?
That's a really good question. So her question was basically, hey, instead of paying all this money for insurance, like what is the limit on what I should be doing? Right? Because I don't want to make 50 grand and pay 50 grand in insurance. That doesn't make much sense. So let's talk about that. Your emergency fund is just money coming out. It's just a backup plan for you. So that's not really insurance. That's just money management for you. Your income protection, if you get it through your employer and they make you pay for it, it's pretty cheap. You might pay anywhere from $2 to $5 a month. So pretty inexpensive. If you supplement some on top, it might be between $10 and $30 a month. So if you're making 50 grand, it's going to be less than 1%. Life insurance, same thing. You can get a kind that's really cheap, $100,000, $10 a month. $200,000, you're probably looking at $15 a month. Yeah, that answers your question. Another thing on you have another question? Awesome. No, that's okay.
The statistics of the United States currently says that most of the people who are looking for jobs today don't look for organizations. They look for skills. So most of them are like changing their jobs over less than 2 years with the same employer. In this condition, will the company pay your premiums and give you the insurance and stuff?
So you're going to love my direct answer. Some will, some won't. Okay, it really depends on the employer. And that's pretty consistent across the board. I would say 70% of the time, they'll pay for it. But if you have to go out on your own and get it yourself, that's still all right because it's always in your back pocket. So if you change jobs, bingo, it follows you. It's right with you. Another thing, when you choose an insurance company, there's financial ratings out there. Okay, it's Moody's, Standard & Poor's. If you've ever heard of those before, think of it this way. It's basically a report card for insurance companies that tells us as consumers, hey, how's their grades? Are they a good company or not? Because me as the consumer, I don't know if this company's a good one or not. Wouldn't it be nice if they printed a report card so we knew? They do. Okay, it's called financial ratings. So if you look at that, the ones with the highest ratings are the ones you're going to want to look at. Okay, I'm biased. I work for Northwestern Mutual. We have the highest ratings you possibly can find in the industry. Okay, there's other good companies out there too. Guardian's a great company. Mass Mutual's a good company. Companies like that, you want to make sure they're strong because when financial times are tough, they're the ones that
What
tend to win.
happens if this company is sold up? What happens to the amount of stuff?
If that company goes under,
Yeah.
yep, then there's another insurance backing behind it, behind the scenes that they come in and kind of bail on.
So there is no case of you having a situation where your insurance is lost.
It could be. It could be if they don't come in and bail it completely out. That's why you want to have a strong company. There's about 1,200 companies in the business. I would say, yeah, 10, 20 of them are very, very strong.
And do you think that the ratings really matter for the people with less investment?
No.
Because sometimes you'll be getting paid high, even though the other company is not good rating. So
Is your question if your income is less,
Yeah.
should you do less of this?
should I mention about the rating of the company?
Oh, that you work for.
It's getting some AAA rating.
I don't know if I can do.
What about the rating of the company?
Yep.
What's the rating of the company?
We've got the highest ratings you possibly can find. It's AAA. Yep.
So, yeah, I'm getting, I'm having the income like 50K.
Yep.
So should I be very concerned about the rating of the company, or should I concern about the return?
The return? Is that what you said? Both. because typically what will happen is a lot of the higher rated companies will also give you good returns as well. There's a lot of moving parts to it. I'm trying to keep it really basic for you, but I'd highly suggest once you get started in your career, just sit down with somebody. I call myself a financial coach, you know, because we can coach each person based on their situation and what makes sense. I hope that helped. Yeah. Any other questions? No? All right, so let's start on the fun part of the house. How are we doing? 10, 15 is good? Okay. All right, so here's the fun part of the house. Okay, now I'm not going to draw all the fancy stuff that you all wanted because I'm a horrible drawer. So number one, front door. For most of you, is going to be a 401k. So some of you are asking, what in the world is a 401k? Heard of it? How many have heard of a 401k? Okay, so a lot of you haven't even heard of a 401k. All right, that's cool. So let's do this. Here we go with another picture. Remember? 20, 50, 80. So I draw this picture and then you'll absorb this. Okay, this is going to be a bucket. And on this bucket, it's going to have a spigot on the side of it where we turn that bucket on to let the water out. All right? Okay, so that's where the water would come out. Pretty good drawing? You like this? It's good? All right. All right, now I'm going to start blending in what a 401k actually is. So a 401k is basically a container that's holding your money. It's an account that's holding your money. If you've ever heard of Fidelity before, American Funds, T. Rowe Price, those are investment companies that manage your money, okay? The shell of this bucket is called a 401k. It is really important that all of you somewhat understand this 401k concept because this can make all of you, this can immediately give you all a raise when you start with them. All right? It'll be anywhere probably from a 3 to a 6% raise day one if you check this box. So my point is, make sure you check this box. Okay? The concept is, you dump money into this bucket, that money is going to generate interest. All right? You're going to make money on your money. Making money on your money is called interest, and it starts compounding. All right? The way a 401k works is you cannot turn this spigot on until age 59 and a half. So why do you think, well, let me back up. Age 59 and a half is the soonest you can turn this on. So it is strictly reserved for your retirement. All right? That is why I recommend you have an emergency fund with 6 to 8 months of living expenses in it because we know emergencies are going to pop up and we don't want to, the drawing gets better, watch this, this is a lid. If you need to get to this bucket, there's a lid on it and it tells the IRS, people are going to tax you, tells the IRS, hey, leave your hands out of the bucket. Don't be taxing me every single year. IRS says, we'll make a deal with you. That's cool. IRS says, you just can't touch this thing until you're 59 and a half. If you do, okay, this is the IRS saying, if you do, 10% penalty plus taxes. Let me make it real for you. Say you have $10,000 in there. You had an emergency popped up. Way back in February of 2015, you're like, I'm not going to set up that emergency fund. I know I heard about it, but I'm not going to do it. You had $10,000 in here, and all of a sudden you needed it. You're going to get roughly $6,500. The IRS is going to take the other $3,500 because we broke the lid before 59 and a half. Okay? So, excellent bucket. Here's the key part. Your employer, not all of them, but most of them will have this 401k or simple IRA. most of them, again, not all of them, will match 3% to 6% of your income. And they will dump it in here too to help you. Really important that you understand that. So at 50 grand, 3% is $1,500. You just got a $1,500 raise by knowing how to play the game. So I hope you enjoyed the last 25 minutes because it just made you $1,500. Okay? Now that's $1,500 year after year after year after year after year. All right? So let me give you an idea of what that means. So I'm a nerd. I carry a calculator in my pocket. Right? So it's the cool thing to do. Let's say you put in $1,500. You put in $1,500. So your employer matches $1,500. So you're putting in $3,000 a year, right? Who can take a guess at 7% interest what that would look like when you're 65? Let's say 30, well, most of you are going to be 25, so let's say 40 years. $3,000. $600,000 at 7%. Okay, here's what's wild. Remember, you were putting in $1,500, they were matching $1,500, so that's $3,000 a year times 40 years is what? 120 grand, right? And you had 600,000. That's what interest can do for you. You all are in the driver's seat on that because of as young as you are. If you learn to manage your money, not let it manage you, you can make another $500,000 just by being smart with your money. Okay? Now, the last part, then I'll open it up to questions. So if you put in 3%, they'll match 3%. 401k, here's the automatic that you need to do, that you need out of anything you wrote down today, here's the one. Always put in as much as you can to get the maximum match from your employer. So if employer says, we'll match you 3%, what do you need to put in? 3%. If they say, we'll match you 5%, what do you need to put in? If they'll match you 6%, what should you put in? 6%. Yep. So always at least do that, because then you're giving yourself a raise. Any questions on the 401k? It also can be disguised as a simple IRA, but if you just remember 401k, we'll guide you through it. A couple other pieces to this. There's another version of these. I'm not going to go in depth with those because it's going to confuse you.
What does it have to do with the door?
What does it have to do with the door of the house? Yep, I'm going to pull back into that. That is the door to your retirement, because it's going to fund it, a lot of it. All right? We're going to add some other windows to the house called IRAs. Okay? There might be other investment accounts. There's just tons of decorations we can do on the house. Meaning there's tons of different investment options. I don't want to bore you with all of them. I think the 401k is really important that you all understand, because that's probably the one that you're going to run into the quickest. Now, what is the roof of the house? That's going to be estate planning, which is when you have a high net worth, it's doing some efficient tax planning. Again, nothing you have to worry about yet. It's going to be a good problem to have. There'd be a chimney on there with other investments and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. So we're about right on time. What other questions are there? Nothing? The other piece that I would be thinking about is you can download a financial calculator to your phone. Might cost you you $1 or $2 for the app. But if you can learn how to run that thing, you can do what I just did to figure out, okay, if I put in 3% of my wages, what can that look like for my future? If I'm going to buy a car, how much is that costing me in interest? Right? If I do a 3-year loan on the car compared to a 5-year loan, how much interest did I pay? You can really grab a hold of that and learn that. That will help you a ton to manage your money and not let it manage you. Okay. Any other questions at all?
Alright, so this is all for when we retire.
Yep, this part of the house will be a lot of your retirement plans.
And the bottom part is for when dead things happen, right?
Yep.
So where in that can we put in like a vacation account?
Excellent question. Yep. So let's add a garage to this thing. Okay, we're doing a really small garage, but here's the garage. Basically, the question was, hey, this is long-term. This is retirement dollars. This is the what-if account. You know, what if this happens or what if that happens? What about living and having fun today? That's an excellent question. I'm glad you brought it up. What I really like to see people do, my wife and I do this, I love to go to warm places in the winter. Okay? I love Iowa. I was born and raised here. I just need a little break from it for about a week every year to get out of the snow, so we go to somewhere warm. I would highly recommend, when you set up this emergency fund, set up another account. It's called vacations, or call it, sometimes people are like, I don't want to save all my money and miss life today, which to me basically means create your memories and experiences with your family and live too. Do that, but plan for it. I'm a financial guy. I used to go on vacations, and the whole vacation, I'd think about how much it costed. Drove me nuts. Finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm either going to manage this money or it's going to manage me, because it's managing my thinking right now. So I'm going to go set up a vacation account. Now when I go on vacation, it's a ball. Because I've already planned for it, and I don't need to think about it. I don't need to put it on a credit card and then pay it back. Hey, it's already sitting there. I already planned for it. No big deal. So, excellent question. I'd set up a vacation or a memories and experiences account. Contribute to it every 2 weeks. I'm going to take a survey. Who thinks, okay, here's your 3 options. Save $125 every 2 weeks, save $250 a month, or save $3,000 a year. Okay? $125 twice a month, save $250 a month, or save $3 grand at the end of each year. Who thinks writing a check at the end of each year at $3 grand is going to be the easiest? What about $250 a month? What about $125 every 2 weeks? Okay, for most people it's every 2 weeks. It doesn't matter to me if you're putting in $10 every 2 weeks in your vacation account. The critical piece is get in the habit of doing it, because you'll make more money. And people always say to me, well, but when I make more money, I will be able to do this, do that. The reality is, I have people that don't make a ton of money that save like crazy. I have clients that make $7, $8, $9, $1 million a year that have a difficult time saving $5,000 in a check. What did I learn from that? You either manage your money or it will manage you. So, any other questions?
Okay, so say you have a job that maybe you've been around for so years.
Yep.
How easy is it to switch out all your stuff and expense?
That's a really good question. So a lot of times your 401k, the question was, all right, I got a job. I was there for 5 years, for example, and found a different job. Now I have a bunch of my benefits at my old employer. Now what do I do? This will automatically stop. This will automatically stop unless you went out on your own and bought it, and then it's always in your back pocket. This 401k, if you're working with financial advisor, and they'll typically help you with all of this. You'll roll it to a personal IRA that's in the back pocket. You could roll your old 401 to your new 401 too. I know that's confusing. But bottom line is, if you leave your employer, you do not lose that big 401k that you have. You just need to roll it to something that can follow you. Any other questions?